All right, we are live. Hello, everyone. I'm Richard Millett, the one. And this is the quarantine stream, the 61st one. And let us hear the ever beautiful, ever lovely, ever green quarantine stream theme, shall we? Beautiful. Excuse me. It's called Flowers at the Foot of the Cave. Swinging light bulb above a cracked basement window, a painting depicting the creation of creation, and a makeshift bed. I made up a new name for you that I'll only keep in my head. My head. Look at the jewel resting in the bottom of the wooden cup, of the stack of handwritten sheets explaining the steps of the ritual in rich, deep red. And the names of everyone there exist in my head. My head. Charcoal renderings of saints ripped from a magazine and pinned to the door, dented bits of metal shaped to make a mosaic and pushed into the floor. Quarter-inch thick spray-painted silver ribbons looped like ringlets in the air, and the floating stray white veins from a feather landing on your hair. Here I sit, half childish, with freshly washed clothes strewn over the chair. A tray with orange peels, melon rinds, and empty glasses rests balanced on the table's edge, while I'm reading a map leading to a room more colorful than the womb, where I can overhear things other than gurgling and organs rushing. But still, this will always be in its infancy, because love is where Genesis greets infinity. And for proof, you can look in my eyes, even though I won't confirm or deny how much of this is true. But I trust that will get worked out by you. This is from 1993 when I was only 16 years old. This is called Pool. Your love brings me peace. Your beauty brings me fantasy. Your thoughts bring me reality. Our love so naked and pure, of the dirt, of the clouds. Your strength gives me courage. Your dreams complete mine. Our circle forever revolving. This is called Submerging. My thoughts stop. My muscles go slack. I sink into the gray water. I rise, pick up shells, and see something inside. I see a spotlight bathed in cream, a turtle swimming slowly, and bioluminescent plankton out past the reef. I am not the follower. I have nothing to prepare for. I am not the leader. I've got no form. At this moment, I'm no one's son, except for my father's father's father. My head stays underneath. No new oxygen, but for the time being, I've got everything that I need. I'm not the follower. I've got nothing to wait for. I'm not the leader. I'm just being born. At this moment, I'm no one's son, except for my mother, the clouds, the sun, the land, the water. All is one. All is one. I have come. All is one. Open reach. All is one. To infinity. All is one. Circle soul. All is one. Bird's beak. All is one. Silver seed. All is one. We have come. Excuse It's called Investigating Mitsy. She rides round the merry-go-round wearing satin slippers, chewing pink peppercorns. Her eyes are a miracle in the way they paint names in the minds of rain clouds. The lightning reaches out to introduce itself. The Queen of Atlantis draws filigree for the king while he's taking his bath. Bristling lips kiss the teeth of the key ring and lick ankles and mouth. She holds a bouquet of clarinets while wearing a lavender herringbone robe and nodding at buckets of soap. Her elbows hold her weight on the sand dune decorated with still wet seashells and teacups half filled with a treacle she pours out onto tree roots. The Queen of Atlantis plans where the French and English will meet. The king eats suckling pig and excites the court over soaking his feet. This is called the Invisible Synthesizer. The plane lands by the grace of the titanium hand. A fog whispers, dissolves over a stack of prayer stones. A stiffened spine completely covered in sea foam. Closet full of striped clothes coated in cast iron. The titanium hand has no stains or scars. The titanium hand instantly uprooting thunder from clouds. The harvest, the bounty of the harvest, reaping the bounty into plastic bags. Endless handfuls of beautiful blueberries pressing against plastic bags. The plane ascends by the grace of the titanium hand. The grid is powered by the grace of the titanium hand. Vertical waves powering on an offline equator. Vertical waves swirling inside color-coded numbers. The harvest, the bounty of the harvest, reaping the bounty into plastic bags. Endless handfuls of beautiful blueberries pressing against plastic bags. Twitching fingers and tapping feet remain untamed. The harvest, the bounty of the harvest, reaping the bounty into plastic bags. Endless handfuls of beautiful blueberries pressing against plastic bags. Vertical waves powering on an offline equator. Vertical waves coiled around the axis. Running is a blessing, as refreshment is restoration. Restoration is the key moment of demonstration. The harvest, the bounty of the harvest, reaping the bounty into plastic bags. Endless handfuls of beautiful blueberries pressing against plastic bags. The titanium hand types, gimme, 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 gimme the rest of all these years. The titanium hand types, gimme, 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 gimme the rest of all these years. This is called Horse. Let's share the silence while everyone is absent. With the electricity out, it's unknown if the edges can be seen. Thin line. Take your clothes off and find out if you're purple. Supine. Time to get reserved by disengaged, dreary people. I'm optimistic enough to whisper in your ear, vanish into the walls, and watch you walk to the chair. Let's share the silence and test the power of my stare and the limits of your willingness, then pretend we're unaware when you stand in front of the mirror and all the stringent reasons why you're really here. I'm clear enough to stand near the back, not against your thigh, to avoid glancing at your eyes. Let's share the silence, ease into your patience, measuring what each instant takes seconds after the temperature breaks, and staying anxiously awake, while the next 7 minutes are advanced into minute facets, slipping across conjoined elements. I'm open enough to adjust the embryo window, your tight spine, your consent, the tension kept sacrosanct. This is called Windy Sequins. Through the missing bricks, you can see a banquet table with a candelabra crooked from water-falling wax. On the other side of the missing bricks is a tablecloth with faintly gray claw stains left by mourning doves. Through the missing bricks, there is a banquet table, heaving with indentations from apples, persimmons, cantaloupes, and pears. On the other side of the missing bricks, there's a deer walking in the distance while a finger painting floats to the ground. Through the missing bricks, there is a banquet table with unopened telegrams and sturdy silver trays stacked up with books about the Enlightenment. On the other side of the missing bricks, there is a pebble garden placed on a tree branch next to a mortar and pestle. Through the missing bricks, there is a banquet table lined along the bottom right edge with bowls of cold dandelion soup. Seated 45 degrees away from the banquet table is a man with a salt and pepper waxed mustache humming waltzes and complaining about the distortions of sounds and colors. 110 years old, and he doesn't know that electric blue can be beautiful too. called the Vatican Vaults. Shelves lined with caskets, ripe fruit piled up in baskets. Sugar cubes and teacups rattle as saucers are dragged across tablecloths. Outside, a crowd sits murmuring. A harmonium coughs discordantly off the spokes of a bicycle wheel, and snakeskin is carefully wrapped around palms. Two men each wear a veil, one off mauve, the other pink lady red. Gravel sits at the bottom of stained glass vials, and mink pelts are smoothed out over tiles. Three elderly spinsters raise their voices in praise, their weathered hands shaking at the sky. Gold medals tied around their waists reflects the sun directly into children's eyes. Four blind beggars fool the crowd into believing they're brothers who compete by tying knots and rope faster than any comers, the act only ending at dusk when they split their spoils. Stars roll around the moon, back and forth from end to end. Clouds erase them away when each new day begins. We are pushing the limits of technology tonight. It's pretty remarkable. All right. This is called Blue Soaked Scepter. The kink in my neck that runs to my kidneys, distracting me from movies I've long since memorized, and repeating quotations I've lived inside of, and I've no desire to rewrite history that doesn't concern me. When what I didn't know already felt familiar, when I saw the inscription on my commemorative plaque had been worn back to smooth silver, when I slipped behind the mist, changed clothes, washed my hands, and shaved, with no light and with no intention of anyone seeing my face for a while, I was willingly walked through a coal-stained city lot and deposited in the back seat of an already running windowless army green car, which was then locked from the outside. Mary! Had I abandoned my practice? Committed an indirect affront in my brief absence? My name is Keith. The beggar at my door raised his arm, but soft, while I listened to his parables that had no center. My name is Luke, with an auspicious mistress beside me. I looked at a baby looking out a window at fluttering street signs. My name is Julia. My temper was gentle as I read a sermon called, "Are you here to celebrate the death of death?" My name is Giles. I looked at my hands. The lines were so deep it looked like stigmata. My name is Grace. I was observed by three people whose accounts proved suggestible and fractured. My name is Abigail. I looked at a child holding a map with a gigantic smile on his face. My name is Morgan. I spent twilight emptied save for sketching a red tunic on bent paper. My name is Brooke. I was registered in a hotel under an assumed name and made lists of families that I pitied. My name is Gabriel. I singed my hair and clothes trying to be recalled. The sky has been moonless for 29 nights. Why couldn't I stay? I was bothered by the way the streetlights hit the trees and reflected off the leaves. I took a knife and short length of rope. 6 hours later, I'm waiting for you to arrive, carrying a scepter and wearing a breastplate with frayed shoulder blades and exhausted eyes. I'm waiting for you to arrive, sitting cross-legged on the sodden deck with wayward souls who were barely seen. I leapt off the ledge and was soon out of haunt as I climbed the concave shores, wondering if I should forage, catch a gudgeon, or eat unbruised fruit that had fallen. The gravelly, guttered soil gave way to encroaching forest, dense with rows of weighted, wet purple limbs and succumbed to gravity and wind. Then abruptly I was in the center of a champaign, and the only objects I found were short rows of tree stumps and stones, each carved with the query, "What made you look here?" I jaunced away into the odd even and was again pursued by the thicket's reach. The thorns licked my calves, the anthills shone like pebbled glass. I brushed past a frog with a violet tongue and discolored teeth, who gulped for relief while his body remained static like a splayed thread in aspic. I made my way into the antres and found myself prating, "Prithee, pray tell what you remember of working your hands into the mud and feeling it curl up under your fingernails." It feels like a relic reunited with its original setting after having been figured lost or only seen in a dream. Betimes I glanced around for the traveling lamp while standing beside the curvature, hearing myself call to datelessly abandon vizards and leasing and be faithfully young-eyed. I returned once more to the champagne and sat among the stones in silence. But I received no visions or visitations, no inspiration to invent an incantation, and in this vacuum of communication, I only experienced the sense or perchance suggestion of the imposing press of eras and atmosphere. And now I notice this restless weather, shy beams of sunlight moving sideways through the strings of remaining rain. This is called Should I Go In? Hold on a second. All right. I think that's better. All right. Silver Peppermill whispers to the hammer that she's an airport. And though she never really shows anybody, I still know that she's an airport. If you stop at her coffee shop, she'll charge you extra for a plastic top. The well-water ice cubes have heard this tale told before, but she's an airport. A zebra's chewing gum can confirm the reports that she's an airport. If you take off your shoes after the security stop, she'll throw them in the air and they'll land in the baggage car. Run down the runway into the center of the day where the sun is pointing down to the ground. Reach all the way down to touch your toes and remember a story that you'll want to pass along someday. Run down the runway into the center of the day where the sun is pointing down to the ground. Reach all the way down to touch your toes and remember a story that you'll want to pass along someday. She's an airport, and her father is a farm filled with corn stalks. Her mother is a candy factory spinning reflective baubles. Cessna tropria, dinara retaf, siam raf, delif etu, drax sklats, retam, saya ednak irakaf, gedinep sevet kelfer selbuab. Cessna tropria, denera retaf siam raf delif hitud rax sklats, reretam saya ednak erat kaf geninip sevet kelfer selbuab. She's an airport, and her father is a farm filled with corn stalks. Her mother is a candy factory spinning reflective baubles. If I could implicate, if I could talk to you, I will some more. Just like in today's world of opinion and denunciation, and admirable like in pictures and friendliness and outward inliness. Maybe I'm on the thrust of that. She dreamed she was a train draped in robin's egg lace. She couldn't keep still in one place. She dreamed she was the only train running on the 4th of July, filled with whipped cream to burst and streamers to fly. She dreamed she was a train running past the impound lot, and after every platform on the route, she'd whisper, "I still love Phil." She was sad when they closed the gates at night. She dreamed she was a train filled with die-cast metal engines and cowboy hats, ordered by the civil rights workers' favorite daughter. She dreamed she was a train and her earrings were flashing orange lights. She waved hello to the one car she'd stopped at the tiny suburban crossing, a train to get the tracks loose and rattling. Rattling tracks reminds her of those uncles and aunts talking loudly over each other at her grandmother's birthday. Rattling tracks reminds her of those uncles and aunts talking loudly over each other at her grandma's birthday. People with names like Buster and Josephine and Frank and Des. People with liver spots and lumps on their heads. People with blue chain link circular patterns on their zip up front poly rayon dress, and small perms and cat-eye glasses, arguing with each other about baseball scores, the price of grapes, and the routes that they took to get there that day. Rattling tracks reminds her of those uncles and aunts talking loudly over each other at her grandma's birthday. 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 Birthday! All right. It's called cruelty-free heroin. When the Guardian goes mad, the sun rains against their eardrums, indistinguishable from Morse code tapping out on a copper plate. Yes, when the Guardian has gone mad, they're found singing love songs to tanks, draping staircases and flags, breaking car windows to decorate their faces with the glass. When the Guardian goes mad, they're captured pushing a pickaxe into an LED screen and detained for threatening to throw snakes at gas station attendants. When the Guardian goes mad, people suddenly remember to turn on AM radio and patiently follow guidelines before filing a full report. Though there are always doubters and passers-by who start conspiracies, the usual being that this was some sort of planned distraction. If the Guardian goes mad, they'll arrive at every awards ceremony with a mirror in hand and a ribbon under their chin and make demands to review the voting processes when they don't win. If the Guardian goes mad, they'll rue the day they lost control of their relationships, spending weeks hiring staff to bury paperwork they'll insist doesn't exist. If the Guardian goes mad, all their meals shall consist of orange peels pulled from chain link fences and burned coffee flavored with molded peach preserves, though there are always doubters ready to offer an opinion of unverifiable proof, summarizing that death and maps are the only real measures of impact. And can you imagine being that fucking sick? The Guardian cracks up. They'll spend bleak days envisioning trees committing suicide, grandmothers doing crystal meth for the first time, and gnats smeared into toothpaste. If the Guardian cracks up, 7 strangers stuck in a bank will claw at each other to seek cold air in the vault and wait for their families and firemen to arrive and dig them out. If the Guardian cracks up, pirates will walk their own planks and devour themselves once they hit water, thrashing back at their gnashing teeth, running the seas red until hunter and prey are finally one. Ignorance! Arrogance! The pest control man said unto me, when I was in Japan, I bought cherry bread in a can. I opened it with a knife and slid off the wrapper. The air bubbles stayed floating in my mouth, and I rolled them around and around and around and around until I returned back to the West. Bliss, tolerance. The pest control man said unto me, sometimes my apartment building turns into a vending machine and I get deposited out into the evening to provide goods and services for lucky couples with good taste and a few wandering dollars to rub together. This is called Songs Without Music. Saul, standing outside the Burger King, watching you at age 5, sleeping on the floor, your parents dismayed because you wouldn't get up and play and run around instead of the beginning, when you were an infant screaming. I remember you repeating yourself at age 7, watching Jacob play video games, watching your grandfather import coffee and bananas, watching your cousins spit raw churned turd snuff into the Royal Crown cola cans with tiny flecks of carrot stuck between his teeth, whistling a song all but forgotten, filing porn under his jacket at the tackle and bait shop. The slight sigh of your mother as her stomach was pressed upon the leaves on the trees, pointing, "You are wrong." So I coughed and I took some books from Jacob and took Meredith's old records and a giant eraser and got rid of Peter and Paul straight off the cover. Mother Mary all alone with no route home and a husband who doesn't vote but made his voice count, stealing election signs from his neighbor's lawns of Dawn's the long ago retired janitor, of Constancy, the surgeon's custodian. There should have been a passing lane, an oasis for souls with drained desires, and where disconnected relations can sit at empty tables and wait for service. You stared at the chickens needing feed, Joan ignored his chores, and you refused to converse with the mailman, interlocking circles of uninspired activity, the robotic enjoyment, the scent of the mold wafting across the staircase. You called it a quarter. It was in fact a hubcap, a clean confession, lying shining on the unpaved. I could say it turned to crystal, Jacob naturally would, but you would only laugh. Rannon and Boaz would, when you pose for a picture. Don't remember to smile. Pax. Saul. Sometimes when I write to you, I'm not sure how much it's safe to say, and I wish I could explain why I need you to understand, other than to say, you need to feel my pain, and that I don't care what it does to you. I don't care if you understand. I don't care if it gives you happiness. I don't care if it makes you suicidal. You need to understand that I need to make you feel my pain. You need to feel my pain. And I don't care about the effect it has. And I don't care about the light in which that paints me. And I wish I could explain why I need you to understand the time from which I came. And I know you don't relate, in my setting the stage like an alligator migraine, while I waited for the California girl, for George to finally answer his phone with a snide, meaningless rhyme of a line. California girl who had a car ready. The rest is just depressing, about how the girl in her mother's house in Riverside wanted to commit suicide, and I wanted a detailed confessional, all on film. First, as you can see, there's nothing here for you to read. Pax, Hyman. Saul, so far this has been a pretty one-sided conversation, and for that, I apologize. With the morning sun will come, your time to talk and sweep the sand off the tiled floor, whilst the rush hour train runs overhead, and you pause to reflect on its scheduled splendor. But no matter how long the giraffe's neck is, no matter how many feathers flock together on the guest list, no matter how articulate I am, what I can't ever convey to you is that you haven't experienced the patterns yet, and what comes next after context evaporates and leaves an ashy white film over your arms, elbows, and chin. What you do the day after, your alert-eyed, shaking shoulder sincerity turns into memories you can't properly recall, not because they've been disproved or jettisoned, not because you've forgotten the power of them, but out of overuse and inability to transfer the arrival time at the next station. And I say this not to damn your chances, nor to discourage your efforts. And I wish my thoughts on this could swim like silverfish on a window slicked with mercury. But what I know you've never been told is that the measurement isn't ever based in the wind blowing around two targets in east and west opposites, that you made your myth with an endless adolescence, that you don't see the line you can slip behind to get deceived into thinking that you've already tripped and it's time to recover quick. No, you've still got several years left to go, and the energy is waving and clear, and I may make up my mind about you this time, but neither I nor your godfather lied when we said it's not a trick. It's not from dreams, nor a passing secret. You should spread your fingers when you're told it isn't magic. The world, the world, the world. Life on this planet. Sometimes I get so distracted when I'm racing against myself, screaming from scene to scene, a stranger who's numb to the touch, see the back of his head in front of me. My life. I fear the enemy from the mist and the enemy within, the wealth of the ego, what I might invoke at my most careless after I've sabotaged rest. So I sit up all night and wait, concentrate, and consider the possibilities until the conversation between my stomach and spine has run silent and solid. Certain that I see consequence and evidence, give praise, feel my eyelids tick, and ask for forgiveness. Universal laws. And I must be honest, at the end of all of this, I have a laugh at the idea of spending my life in a prostrated state, of being endlessly apologetic. Because I, like you, have seen too many people for whom hand-wringing humility is the height of arrogance, and to be joyless, to never wink or blush, is to give a convincing performance. Pacts, Paul. She had no idea who we were, but she waited anyway for us to gather by her side. The night my grandmother died, I waited for my family to leave the room. Then I opened her eyes to see if she'd give me any sign. She used to blink at me when she'd say something that wasn't right. We'd laugh across her line of sight. Now her pupils didn't meet mine. Her forehead ignored my fingers. Her jaw was tight. I walked the floor of my house until I forgot about time, with the blinds open, studying the sky. I waited and wanted her ghost to arrive, but I heard someone murmur, "She has nothing left to show," and it made me realize that she dissipated into the air a long time ago, and even if it were possible, why would her spirit appear here? God, enough. My father looked right at me and said he was filled with fear that there was nothing. I said, "Don't be blank. When I was where you were, I heard our relative's voice plainly tell me that I had a choice. Bright, white. I was slightly below myself, double exposed, the cold rag water. Without the reaching heat, I would have froze. It's ringing. It's ringing really loud. Last night, never forget. The future is just an abstract concept. And the here is gone before it is the now. Eventually it will stop, and you'll either face up or you will not. No one speaks of the summer. What makes you so afraid of snakes and lizards? They're all God's creatures. They're just crawling in the dust, wishing they could float above the grit, search out a little desert steak, relax, and enjoy the cool rocks against their scales and the splash of wind on their tails. No one speaks in the summer, but I'm never lonely or bored, because sometimes I'm my own sister or brother, slip out of the side waiting to materialize, and I'm passive when it rains because I know it's been too humid, and I can't change what I'm feeling because I never know what I'm seeing. No matter how hard I try, I can't ever blink. Every hour, I can't measure what I take. I can't make myself faint. I am a canvas, always shedding paint. 3 people in 3 days. No one speaks of the summer, but why was it now so cold? I didn't care what I was told, so I found myself singing along with songs a decade and a half old, and it could have been a lifetime ago. He showed up playing a strident saxophone, and I said, no, man. Give me 2 clarinets and a silver oboe. We were open, we were able. If there was no crime, then we're not criminals. We're a field of echoes, growing for the earth angel. No one speaks in the summer, and all the secrets I've stolen I've kept to myself. The rain fell fast in quick, loud bursts, then would vanish. He'd been distracted for hours. The longer he avoided sleep, the more he was annoyed and perplexed. The rain sounds fake. If it were a movie, it would be a lame special effect. He woke up the next morning, forced himself to go to work, called her when he got to his desk, said she had to see him, no excuse. She was the only one he could trust. He scared the hell out of her at lunch, speaking in breathless gulps, cold sweat coating his wet lips, swinging his arms to point at ghosts in the corner, but it was just the waiter wanting to refill the water. She tried desperately to change the subject and said she just read The Help, but he was an unchained dog. Back in the parking garage, he touched her for the first time and said, "Thanks for listening to me, but none of it was me. All of it belonged to someone else." and she begged off, but before the end of the day wanted to make sure he was still okay. He wrote back that everything was fine, thanks, and that he had had a good time. No one speaks of the summer. You don't have any interests. You're going to go shallow because you don't have any interests. No one speaks in the summer. Demi finished the last exam of her last semester, stopped by her mom's job to find out her new shift hours, and said hi to her boyfriend and reminded him to pick her up from his parents' house later. In her glove compartment were the glass beads her mother had bought back in '72 when she went to the London School of Economics, as she was fond of pointing out just a few years after Mick Jagger had. No one speaks in the summer. She was feeling incredibly lazy as she read an email from a guy she half remembered. He was always complimentary, but everything he said was out of order. She wrote back something quick and non-committal with a minute mix of enthusiasm. That will pacify him. She passed the afternoon playing with her cats, then rolled over and took a nap. Her boyfriend texted her that he'd be bringing dinner back. A certain psychological tendency. James was in the editing room. Not only had he not laughed in weeks, he was now becoming contemptuous of his colleagues who smiled constantly, immediately embraced strangers, and acted as if life was a party piece designed solely for their amusement. James looked down at the floor. It was littered with random strips of celluloid, unhinged reels, and empty canisters. He never doubted the story he wanted to tell, but now his mind pulsed with endless ideas for framing devices, the rhythms of the third act, should there even be a third act, obfuscation techniques, rewriting, redubbing the dialogue, and where to place the music. In a fit of frustration, James had chosen a key moment in the film, and with a safety pin carved across several frames, I never had prose ambitions. He was careful not to write any of the letters backwards. He wanted this to be seen, even if it was only subliminally. He had been in this small white room seemingly forever. He wanted a sound night of sleep. He wanted a meal of more than bad Mexican food, McDonald's, or a hot dog from Pink's. But until all of this work was done, he knew that in good conscience he would never leave. I never had prose ambitions. I made a movie about a moth. It's called 50 Days. A part of me thinks that's quite obvious. The opening is about a group of people wandering the hills. All I wanted was to set the scene, to capture this windswept flamenco red splotch, orange-pink autumnal opulence. The rest of the movie is close-ups of the moth and the flame. But the moth is in no way attracted to the flame. All the moth wants to do is study it, see if the flame melts vinyl, see if the burnt skin is final. Then it ends with a small group chant, a small prayer, and they go, "If I were to meditate only on my name is when I would finally go insane. If only I were to meditate only on my name is when I would finally go insane." And they clap and ring bells and laugh, and a couple of guys pretend to have sword fights with the candles. Listen. One gray dawn, as rain and mist pelted the cobblestone, I climbed the fence, walked along the beach, and in disbelief, I finally got my wish. I was walking towards myself. Finally, my brother, even better, my twin. We talked for a moment, shared a laugh, corrected a few memories, but he was taller, slimmer fingers, whiter teeth, and was left-handed. And I knew he wasn't me. So I started walking away and made up a melody, opened my mouth to sing. I was born to roam alone. Yes, it's all true. That happened when I was 16. You wear a crown of flowers in a field of trees in Southern California, singing in Spanish, running along the Valencia oranges. But I can see you're really an apple, in an eggshell frock with a laugh that could sail over a sequoia. Garden of paradise, sparrow flying in your mind, the hand of the past is touching. You emerge from the bath filled with milk and lilac, Pale blue light is flowing. My whole life, I've been writing songs without music, and there's no mystery without a clue, except it's all true, and you can sing along if you can hear the tunes. And the time that I am breathing, we are looking for new life in the big world. Spent a mile with an open mouth, looking at the lantern for a route. Everything's in and everything's out, and we are looking for new life in the big world. The fruit got spoiled when it was protected, but the seeds got resurrected. The wheel turned around and we had electric spasms. We walked in, then we walked out, looking for new life in the big world. We gathered round the piano and listened to the sound of the notes soar and the chords pound, and we laughed and cried and sang at the sun and everyone. We were looking for new life in the big world. We remembered the formations. We traveled through the stations, sometimes for excavation, but mostly we were looking for new life in the big world. How you guys doing out there? This is called White Apple. The audience glares. The audience is alone, projected onto the city's moving mouths, upside down, silent, cement. Struggles for breath, lets the water run, walks with a stilted, failing gait. The water runs in the documentary, behind the page, a lesson in taking what you need, wanting to know so bad, so thirsty, so eager for the seed. Roman columns, deep shadows, buttressed arches, fallen collective breach, eyes cast upon the outer circles, eyes cast upon the oval rings over the sea, eyes cast on eternity, eyes cast on maternity. Then across the alley, across the street, he could see the cracks in the statue's feet. He crashed his car against a building, against a lamppost, fluttering fingers ivory, dancing around, darting mercury. The survivalist juts forward, head leering off the shoulders, sees the wet walkways glistening, over-enunciates to nobody listening. His face, an impression in plaster, refers to a thought he had earlier, but it's too austere to articulate. He's had too much sugar to hold his hands straight. As the glass carton breaks, he collapses, the cream running parallel over his veins. The audience on the stage, the public face encased in a clear plastic capsule with evenly explained rules typed on an eggshell card displayed underneath, each remark catalogued and critiqued, each dismal dismissal a prized antique. Washed clean when the rain ran dry, the only dot in the satellite sky, the audience needing permission, needing drink, needing oxygen again. The combination hidden in international waters, the shadow shining on the light. Everything in plain sight secret, a camera on its tripod spinning a circular angle, a code transferred, captured, held by an ascending angel. All are welcome, but come open-handed, without guests or family. You'll enter easier naked, and your intentions won't be mistaken. Jagged rocks under the rushing river, which lead to the lake. The scene is a remake, a three-point star shape, superimposed with stretching hands, making a cityscape, and cold exhaling, creating hovering clouds. Silent! Take out the sound. I want to hear the rushing. I want to hear the pounding. I want to hear the happening. After the action, the empty air in my ears. I want to hear the flying birds make their calls. Hear the echo reverberate off of ancient stone walls. Called Cheltenham Girl. Like a cloud, beautiful sound standing before the signal. When the light shines on the ground, it reflects off the wheel. Parking lot next to the short building on the edge of the desert. She sees it's harder to be a number when you're just starting out as a visitor. Cheltenham Girl, Cheltenham Girl. Clouds can't create the shapes they make or hold onto any rain. Precious, temporary, holding no domain. No machines, no cell phone or computers clicking through broken links. Credit card, social security needed. She'll refuse to register. And she really will. Cheltenham Girl. Cheltenham Girl. Every day, another wish, another mile, closer to the point where I can portray it. Until then, all I'll do is sing to her spirit, and she will return. She will return. This is called I'm Dancing with the Skeleton Key. I'm dancing with the skeleton key pinned under my belt the night after I'd had two simultaneous dreams, an ocular split screen, one where a white-tailed fawn galloped to my front door and another where my brother couldn't sleep. I'm dancing with the skeleton key tied on a twine cord around my neck, remembering when my sister was locked in a minivan and stranded in a parking lot outside of Austin. She kissed the windows and ate the tape left in the cassette deck. I'm dancing with the skeleton key in my unopened mouth, tucked behind my wisdom teeth and obscured by my tongue. I have memories that my sister still won't believe, and I wish I could have edited the 20th century. It could have been done so much better. All of it. I'm dancing with the skeleton key scotch taped to my arm. When I was in school, the vice principal gave himself a heart condition, trying to figure out who had stolen from the convenience store, and then had the gall to boast about it on the blackboard. I'm dancing with the skeleton key in the grotto of a dilapidated Catholic church, where the priest once confessed to me that after each funeral he performed, the only way he could raise his spirits was by making uneasy music with the organist. I'm dancing with the skeleton key concealed in an alley while bells chime at midnight near the railroad, and kids with no curfew dodge between dashing headlights on their way to play hide-and-seek in the park. I'm dancing with the skeleton key laid on the floor of a garage while my brother draws out diagrams on poster boards connecting lines from consequences of thoughts to isolated islands of thinking divided by unintended regressions of actions. I'm dancing with the skeleton key while I am safe at home looking at sealed bags of clothes that I stopped wearing years ago while I was running for mayor on an unconfirmed platform of leaking information out about the governor. I'm dancing with the skeleton key in an adjacent office because the evidence my brother uncovered just got delivered to the lawyer, and he predicts it will make the judge jump and remove any condemnation from his mouth. I'm dancing with the skeleton key in a strip mall that used to be a swimming pool, and before that a man-made hill that covered demilitarized waste trucked over from a Floridian base, and it will still take 100,000 years before any of this reaches its half-life. I'm dancing with the skeleton key clasped tightly in my hand as I watch my sister in the mirror speaking sentences using only one word and plant orchids next to power lines in the backyard. Then she dots the driveway with empty jars to more accurately measure the rainfall. I'm dancing in the skeleton key in my pocket, moving loosely with me. My brother used to cry bitterly to our parents every time he got a ticket, refuting each offense, denying that he did any of it. I'm dancing with the skeleton key sliding uncomfortably in my shoe, but the nuisance helps give me the presence of mind to always hold up what I was taught, that when the rent is due, it's better to be full and well slept than to just hand over a blank check. I'm dancing with the skeleton key pressed into a book, watching leaves in the wind, and a novelist at a press conference performing fake sign language, hoping it will get him the attention he wants for trying to revive the printed word. This is called Shedding Skins. Bloody neuter on the ringworm, dancing with a spectral beauty that isolates fleeting flags and flowers from their glorious panderings, only to find they need no bounds to pillage the free-flow love mine, boiling on the calluses of their corneas. But you, yes, you know him actually on the second time around, forever never considered why you laugh or what you grunt behind, and nothing is, alas, everything has been unrecovered by the sallow aristocracy implosion, in order when the little girls encased in gender sunshine pull down the dawn and shriek merrily of the conquest of fantasy facts, that which, proven by the powers that appear, in by how or where, or because the lightning rays, that is the steel girder stapled to the collective loin, nicked off its kerosene shell until the royal timeshares spat mucus from the utter depths of their backwoods soul scenery, and trounced upon radiators slashing sharply in the wind, and neatly layered sharkskin sweater investments, droning to the click drum madness that haunts the delights of the cupids, and raises their swords to obscene fool Nancy's, that now branching to the stratosphere came nearer and nearer to their choice flight of destination, gesticulatingly appointed by the elder Olympus, that no man hath done trod upon, neither conquering nor salivating, to the twisted pipeling perpetuating ghostly consequence, leading in for the crescendo that yearns to flee away. Perhaps to the gutter, perhaps to the perforation, perhaps to the hostage cage in the 136 inches by the only thoughts you can't repress manifesting suggest that by life and honor the first depths came forth united to loyalty, neither comprehend instead shaping the ween taught so flagrantly as well known to regard its own high priest as the height and unique daft eccentricity. Old man, she who curses doth not will the plenitude into sleeping, but only scraping stones from its fingerprints tangled lewdly and in connection and gratification with a floundering spider's web. called Fingernail In My Salad. Here we come, it's dark out. Hit the ship in the tall cloud. Small heart in the fast flight. Pouring far on the far right. We don't have a backyard. Jack of clubs, the full card. Dance with shape and rhythm. Don't forget precision. There is a super slide that doesn't get water sprayed on it. There is a baby born, but it gets phased out with it. I bought a lot of mail, put my hand in jail, sold the fence for horses, peppermint, of course, it's July! The ground is muddy and there are bees bigger than I ever imagined. I figured they were so big because other bees would just hatch and fall right off of them. Calculus on the lettuce. Grandma is cooking breakfast. Hit balloons with fingertips. Send it back when you get to it. Aluminum in the valley. Say hello, Chris and Cassie. Fingernails, my toothpick. Making scenes for the fruit bit. There were hideous combinations, like a red blazer with gray slacks at the church fashion show. Unless the clothes were designed to annoy, in which it was quite purposeful. They had gifts to be given to each guest. They could choose between trampolines and trombones or daffodils. Crows and geraniums got served oatmeal on the fine linens and had their picture taken for use in next year's program. We made our way to the trampolines, and someone had a flag tied around their neck like it was a cape. Some water shot out of the tree stump, and I won a cactus to be planted somewhere else. I remember 1942, the war came, and the way they flew. 5 bombs was the cry of the land. Suns in the waters, join to join hands. A field here, a swimming hole there. Let's build a new entrance. Can there be a social gathering place too? A gazebo, you mean? Yes, a gazebo to drink lemonade and overhear conversation. Of course we'll have a gazebo. Say goodbye. Say goodbye. Say goodbye. Say goodbye. Yawn, 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 yawn. Time to sleep. Yes, it's time to sleep, everybody. So grab the one that you like to sleep with the most. Hold him tight and say, baby, let's drift. And now to get you in the drifting mood. Fall asleep, little angel. Let's fall asleep and have a wonderful night. For the sleep we share will be something we treasure forever. Come lay down with me. It's dreamy dream time. We sit by the creek and close in the shine. The moon is bright beyond any device. Quiet down and hear the crickets examine and sift. Take your feet and lift up. Take us back by way of dew, down to some Spanish music. Verde, verde. We remember for next time. Da-dum, da-dum, dum, da-da-da-dum, dum, dum, da-dum. Da-doo-dum-dum, da-da-da-doo-dum, da-da-da-dum, da-da-doo-dum, da-da-da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-dum. Called Rubber Buttons. It needs to be kept simmering. The time should flow slow and quietly. Let's go! My shoelaces are undone, which means someone likes me as much as I love to see a basket of swing snowflakes. My shoelaces are undone, so I throw them next to a trunk full of styrofoam tongues, and the person who brought them yells, "Thank you!" The first person to the castle has the obvious advantage. If they wish to scrape their fingernails against century-old windows, they can concentrate vacantly while being unfailingly polite and insisting their hands are made of the same sand as found outside on the beach. They know there is no joy in failure for their friends, and that the fun and restoration happens once the work is done. The second person in the castle has obvious ease. With boldly seizing treasure only they can see through a fizzing camera lens, they can research it quietly while having no qualms about their ambition outstripping their antiques and outstripping their abilities in assessing gaudy antiques. They know there is no lemon rich enough in sourness to let their taste get challenged into swallowing insects and foiled tents. The third person in the castle has the obvious edge when turning their profile to face the East End in hopes of preparing a table leg. They can dutifully saw and sweep the dust into the bin until the bell sounds to them and begin slicing up vegetables in the kitchen. They know there is no creek deep enough to keep them from molding jellies into a series of perfectly semi-translucent wedges. I want brass buttons for my cousin, because I could not count for cufflinks, they counted for me. Because I could not look for light bulbs, they looked for me. Because I could not dance for diamonds, they danced for me. They realized the chateau has the clear advantage as the place to evaluate flashy antiques. I want brass buttons for my cousin, but I make the rubber buttons to wear for myself. While I sew, I look at the library and remember each of my most memorable finds. I want brass buttons for my cousin, but I make the rubber buttons I wear on my jacket. I buy the materials from the tan-toothed man and sold my mom the gold wishing box. I want brass buttons for my cousin because when I preach with the collar, it preaches with me. I want brass buttons for my cousin because when I move with the minnows, they move with me. They realize the chateau has the clear advantage when you're evaluating flashy antiques. Let's go! Well, it's all right. My shoelaces are undone, so I only walk sideways and photograph a plum purple terracotta plant with a price tag sticking out of it, with a flag with a price tag sticking, although it's hard to know. My shoelaces are undone, which means someone likes me as much as I love wearing an apricot ascot while hearing stories about Korean camping sites. Healing camping. Healing camping, healing camping, healing camping, Cheating, healing camping, healing camping, healing camping, healing camping. The first person in the tower can brighten their senses by energetically exchanging sunglasses and hairstyles once safely ensconced up at the top. They can cheerfully sing along with anything, though they prefer Caruso and ragtime to songs they don't know. There is usually a fixed point in the distance for them to focus on things such as helicopter or a hawk taking off shortly after dawn. The second person in the tower can loudly shout, "Oh, I love my girl!" which echoes back so overwhelmingly they can think that they are in a private booth. They can detect the scent of her shampoo in the wind and look down to see her looking up and running towards them. There is normally an iron staircase nailed in 40 years ago, which serves as the one modern addition to the edifice. The third person in the tower can tell endless jokes over dinner about the rabbits they saw nipping chocolate from their mother's open purses. Can you fucking imagine? They can well lay around their necks, which contrast sharply with their pinstripe sport coat and tartan flat cap. There's always a sauna where they can fall asleep underneath a slippery painting of their father all dressed up as a captain. My shoelaces are undone. They lay under the warmth of the sun. This is a true depiction, recited with excellent diction. Let's go! And now I recall other memories. From walking around the castle, the humidity kept at bay, clouds letting loose only hints of rain, and vines intertwining across each other. In each new flower that blooms, another gift for the dozens of bees in love with the newness of June. It's all on top of my eyes. The curious sage in an orange and brown dashiki, standing before a statue of the stripped Christ, arms open and hovering, all on top of my eyes. Lithium batteries in between her teeth. She holds a screwdriver dipped in green paint as she walks over underground cables, all on top of my eyes. In between her toes, she staves off headaches with gallons of water and sleeping when she can, all on top of my eyes. The swells of excitement are just one continued drone. Close concert of ideas, stretching fingers. You did a great job today, Devoted. Seriously. All on top of my eyes. One wonder. One today. A blue wave is dancing right away. A blue wave sprayed gently onto the window. It remained an unfaded crescent reaching over the rooftop. Words flew through untethered. Droplets yawned in sonorous applause. The shape succumbed, giving way by matching passing movements. As when water splashes in the sky, a maypole stands unraveled, while a sunfish kisses a butterfly. The fences were then a canvas. Soaked tissue paper sprung over electrical wires. Fragile fork tails, freshly shaven. As a bronze tiger beetle glanced up at the heavens, dance the night away! And that, my friends, is another exciting edition of the Quarantine String. We hope that you have enjoyed it. We also hope that you really enjoyed our wonderful opening acts, Wow Beautiful and Mount Haku. Hope you love doing it for them because they love doing it for you and, yeah, to you as well. By the grace of God, we will be back next week. I'm pretty confident that we will be back next week. Anyway, we certainly hope that you've enjoyed this. Let us hear the Quarantine Stream theme one more time, shall we? Beautiful. And now more than ever. Until next week, everyone, don't forget, stay safe, stay smart, and here's the really important part. Before I say that, don't trust anybody who tells you that you are not free. Stay free. If you want to worry about the right side of history, the people who are always on the right side of history are the people who always understood that they were free and refused to succumb. Look up Anne-Marie Baraka, look up Harriet Tubman, look up Jim Morrison, look up Ken Jacobs. They'll all agree with me. So when I say this, don't forget, stay free. Because you already are. Do not ever forget that. Seriously. Got that? All right, good. All right. Until next week, everyone. Hope you've had fun. Goodbye. Goodbye. And thank you for watching. Goodbye.